I've struggled with taking consistent action towards my goals for the past almost 3 years now. I'm talking 2023, 4, 5, and half of 2026. The most consistent I'd be with the things I needed to do to achieve my goals on a day-to-day basis was probably 3 weeks. And then I'd fall off bad because it always felt like I was going upstream. It always felt like I was swimming upstream. It was just a constant uphill battle for me. I was always fighting to be consistent. It was like a struggle. 24/7 struggle. And so deep down, I knew that there was going to be a day where my consistency would break, where I'd fall off, and I was almost anticipating that during my 2 weeks of consistency. So I was stuck in this cycle for more than 3 years, being consistent then falling off, being consistent then falling off, being consistent then falling off. I was stuck in this cycle for years and years and years, and I couldn't break out of it. And the worst part is, I knew exactly what to do to get to my goals. I knew that I need to do this in this order to get to my goals. But I just could not get myself to do those things consistently. And so I couldn't really see the results I wanted to, and I could not achieve the goals I set for myself. That is so sad. That is genuinely sad. Especially when I think about the fact that I've been extremely consistent before. In 2022, I was locked in. I was studying consistently every single day to get a scholarship. I was in the best shape of my life. I was making the most progress I'd ever made. And going from that to 3 years of basically no consistency is heartbreaking. But fast forward to today, I am the most consistent I've ever been. This month, I've been the most consistent I've ever been in my entire freaking life. Even more consistent than I was in 2022. Alhamdulillah, all praise and gratitude belongs to God. And I only changed a few things that led to these results. And by the way, I have data to prove that I've been consistent. I'm gonna show that in a second, because I'm not pulling this out of my butt. But the most interesting thing is, this time, it doesn't feel like I'm at war. It doesn't feel like I'm constantly going against the tide. Rather, it feels like I'm swimming downstream. It feels like I'm going with the tide, right? And that is a wonderful feeling. That's one of the best feelings you can ever have, where progress feels almost effortless, right? Now, I'm not saying that, oh yeah, I don't have hard days. Bro, I didn't want to film this video right now. But the overall picture, right, is everything is flowing. It doesn't feel like a constant war. It doesn't feel like I'm constantly going uphill. And that is something I've wished for since 2022. And alhamdulillah, I got it now, after making a few changes. But before I dive into the actual things, I just want to show you data. I just want to show you how inconsistent I was, even at the start of this year, how inconsistent I was before that in 2025, and how consistent I've gotten now, alhamdulillah. I want to show you that, right? So you can skip this part if you don't want to see that. So at the start, or well, mid-start of this year, so the 3-month mark, right? March, April. This is the journal I started to track everything in. I started to write down my daily tasks, my goals, my weekly goals, everything like that. And I have proof of how inconsistent I was. I'm going to show you. You can see that on Monday, March 30th, I did everything I said I was going to do. Same thing on 31st of March. Same thing on 1st of April. Same thing on 2nd of April. But then on 3rd April, I fell off. I got nothing done that day. Nothing done. But the day after, on Saturday, I got everything done. Same thing on Sunday. And the same thing on 6th of April, 7th of April, 8th of April. But then on 9th April, I got nothing done. Right? And then you fast forward the week after, I got none of my weekly goals done. None of them. You can see on 14th of April, I got none of my tasks done except just one. On 15th of April, I got everything done except for just one task. And then on 17th of April, I got nothing done. And 16th April isn't even tracked in that. And then from the 20th to the 23rd, I got everything done, right? But then from the 24th to the 26th, I started missing tasks here and there, right? So I wasn't completely consistent like I am now. And then you can see the week from 4th of May to the 10th of May, I got nothing done that week. Nothing done that week. I tracked the 4th of May, the 5th of May, and then all of a sudden, I have no more days tracked the 11th of May. You see what I mean? That was me being so inconsistent. I was probably consistent in my mind about 40 to 50% of the time. That's terrible. That is me doing what I need to do 50% of the time. That is shameful. And then I had this massive gap, right, where I did nothing. And then from Saturday, 27th of June, I started doing everything again. I started writing things down. Same thing on the 28th of June, 2026, right? 29th of June, 2026. And then all of a sudden, 30th June, I did nothing. 1st July, I did nothing. So I had such like big inconsistencies that I never really got done everything I needed to get done to achieve the goals I set for myself. Right? That is data showing you I wasn't really consistent. And if I show you the times before that, right, that I have on Notion, some days I would get some of my tasks done, some days I get all of my tasks done, some days I get none of my tasks done, right? This was the usual. This was how things were. It was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. But then fast forward to 2nd of July, 2026, that is when I became the most consistent I'd ever been. You can see from that day, I've pretty much done everything I said I was going to do. Pretty much 86.6% of the time. That is the percentage I got of the things I did out of everything I was supposed to do. You can see I'm getting things done, right? 3rd of July, look, everything done, everything done. 6th July, everything done. 7th July, everything done, right? And I have days and days and days, like 11th July, everything done, right? Like, I'm doing everything I said I was going to do, because I changed up a few things. And the only real fall off I had was on the 16th and the 17th of July. Where on the 16th of July, I didn't get my habits done, right? They're all empty. I did not get my habits done. And then on the 17th of July, I didn't get 2 of my tasks done, and my habits done. Right? That was the only real fall off I had. After that point, I pretty much got everything done, right? Aside from missing my bedtime multiple days from 2nd of July, right? That's the only thing I mainly missed. And so that's proof of my consistency, right? And I set things up so simply. I have a morning routine, right? Very, very simple morning routine. Then I have some habits I want to do every single day, right? And then I have my tasks that I want to get done every single day. My most important tasks, the tasks that generate me results, right? With whatever goals I have, right? The ones that move the needle. It's simply that. That is all I'm doing. And so now I'll walk you through exactly what I did to achieve this consistency by the grace of God, because I've tried everything before: schedules, timers, habit trackers, affirmations, and I don't even know what else, right? But nothing seemed to work. I tried keeping a covenant with myself. I genuinely, I signed a covenant with myself. I pasted it on my closet, and I was like, remember the covenant. And I wrote down the date, and I had my sign there. Right. I removed that paper a few days after. I tried every possible thing, but nothing worked for me personally, except for what I'm going to talk about right now. Now that we've set the scene, let's get to it. The first thing is that everything is rooted in identity, because you have certain beliefs about yourself. You believe yourself to be in a certain way. You have certain things that define who you are, certain beliefs that define who you are, and then you act in accordance to those beliefs. For example, a very simple example, right? I don't smoke. I've never smoked once in my life. I plan on never smoking in my life. I've never smoked a joint, a cigar, a cigarette, vape. I've never done any of that stuff in my life, right? And I plan on never doing that in my life. And even though I have friends who smoke, right? And even if they offer me a cigarette, I'm like, bro, I don't smoke. Because that is who I am. That is a belief I have within myself. That is something that defines me. I am someone who does not smoke. And therefore, you can place genuinely, you can be like, Ali, this is the best cigarette in the entire world. This is the best cigar in the entire world. It's proven, right? And you only have this one chance to smoke it. Like, you place in front of me, like, you only have this one chance to smoke it, you can never smoke it again. I'll be like, I don't care, bro. I don't care, because I don't smoke, right? It's my identity, I don't smoke. And so, why the hell would I care about trying a cigar, right? And so I have this belief I don't smoke about myself, and I act in accordance to that belief, right? The same thing can apply to, for example, drinking, right? As a Muslim, I've never drunk in my life, and I plan on never drinking in my life, right? That is a belief I have within myself, right? I am someone who does not drink, because that is who I am, right? I don't drink. And so I'll act in accordance with that belief. For example, I've had moments where I've legitimately had beers in front of me, right? Like, people drinking beers in front of me. I'm like, sure, like, I don't feel any attraction towards that, because I'm like, I don't drink. Like, that's just who I am, I don't drink. And so I'm acting in accordance with that specific belief, right? That is how important beliefs are, because you will end up acting in accordance to those beliefs. That is why everything is rooted in identity. I'll give you another example. My old identity, something I'm in the process of breaking completely, was that I am someone who does not keep the promises I make to myself. As crazy as that sounds. No one's shouting in the mirror, I am someone who does not keep the promises I make to myself. No one's doing that, right? No one's doing that. It's something that is against you, right? But I had that identity. Because for years and years and years, I did actions that proved that identity to be true. For example, I tell myself, and I tell my brother, I'd be like, bro, I'm going to go to sleep early tonight. Even he knew, and even I knew deep down, that I'm not going to go to sleep early tonight. I knew that. That is insane to think about. Why? Only because of one thing. I had that belief about myself, and I was acting in accordance to that belief, because that is what I'm supposed to do. That is why, in a sense, your beliefs are so important in shaping your life. If you believe yourself to be a certain way, you will end up acting that way. And the thing is, identity is something that does not have to be complicated, right? For me, like, there's someone on the internet, amazing person, right? Amir Janbey. And he talks about identity architecture. He talks about all these things, and he talks about these with such complexity. And like, he has 4-hour lectures on Carl Jung psychology. I'm like, bro, like, that is way too much for me, right? Because if I start diving so deep into these things and I start learning so much about this, right? Sure, it's valuable, but for someone like me, I know for a fact that I struggle to take action if I have all this information. So I didn't want things to be complicated. I wanted to simplify this as much as possible, because I need to change my beliefs, right? So I can take consistent action towards my goal. And so I found this clip by Greg Lav, right? Greg Levecchia, founder of Bloom. Such a G, right? And he was talking about how every 6 to 12 months, he writes down 5 things, right, that define Greg in the future. So 5 statements that define who Greg Levecchia will be 6 to 12 months from now. And then he works towards making those statements true, right, over the course of those 6 to 12 months. And I also, at the same time, I came across a James Clear article, right, where he talked about identity-based habits. And so he talked about choosing an identity and then acting in line with that identity. So for example, I am the type of person who insert blank. I am the type of person who trains 3 times a week. I am the type of person who trains every single day. I am the type of person who walks 10K steps a day. I am the type of person who prays every single day. Like, that kind of stuff. It's very similar to what Greg said, right? Because the way that I took what Greg said is that write down 5 to 10 things that will define the identity you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months. God willing. And that brings us to step number 2, defining my goals and defining my identity. So when I thought about my goals, for me, it was to build my dream physique, right? Fix this injury, build my dream physique and this dream athletic build that I have in mind, right? The second one was to complete an Arabic program I'm doing, right? I'm trying to learn the Arabic language, so complete this whole course I'm doing, right? And the third thing was to document my journey on YouTube and, well, kind of on Instagram as well. So I was like, what is the identity of the person who has achieved these goals, God willing? Right? What are the 5 to 10 things that define this person who has achieved these goals, right? What are the 5 to 10 traits that define this person? For example, if I want to lose weight, right, then a trait I can build within myself is to move a lot. And so my identity could be to become the type of person who moves more every single day. If I wanted to get a promotion, then a trait that I need to build is to learn skills and keep upskilling myself, right? So my identity would be to become the type of person who sharpens my skills religiously. If I wanted to become a better writer, then a trait that I need is to write every single day. And so my identity could be to become the type of person who writes 1,000 words every single day. You get what I mean? And so when I think about my goals and the type of person who's gonna achieve them, God willing, a few traits come to mind. Having discipline, not breaking promises to myself, not indulging in cheap dopamine, being a creator and not a passive consumer, being a great communicator, and being a student of my religion, Islam. And so using that, using Greg Lebeckia's formula, and using James Clear's concept of identity-based habits, I was like, okay, let me write out some statements. I made certain statements, and I want to give you a few examples. I am the type of person who does not break the promises I make to myself. I am the type of person who does not scroll, eat sugar, or eat junk food. I am the type of person who creates every single day instead of passively consuming. There's a bunch more, but I repeat these to myself every single day, every single morning, multiple times, right? Each statement multiple times to remind myself and cement this identity within my brain. In fact, I should be repeating this multiple times throughout the day, right? Not just in the morning, but this is just to remind myself who I'm becoming. Right? Who I want to become, who I am in the pursuit of becoming. And so I can take actions throughout the day with that identity in mind, and that is leading to the third thing. That is doing actions aligned with my identity. Because truth is, you can't build an identity with just being like, I am the type of person who workouts every single day, but then you work out like once a week. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. You have to make your actions match your identity. You have to act in line with these statements. There is no way around it. You're gonna have to use a certain amount of discipline. You're gonna have to suck it up, right? And just do the things that you need to do. There's no way around it. And so it will suck many, many times. But if you act with that identity in mind, it will be less sucky, if that's a word. Like for example, you just had lunch and you're really craving something sweet and you know that you're struggling with this sugar addiction of yours, right? And you're like, I need to match my actions to my identity, but it's so freaking hard. If you just remind yourself, I am someone who doesn't eat sugar. I am someone who does not eat sugar. Why would I even desire that, right? It gets easier. Trust me, it gets easier. I'm talking from experience. It gets much easier. And the power of your actions when it comes to changing your identity is so great because your actions can genuinely change your identity without you even realizing. Like with me, right? 2022, insane self-belief, discipline, consistent, doing everything I'm supposed to do, working hard, right? Pushing myself, doing all of that. And I had insane self-belief, right? Insane self-belief. I was like, I can do whatever I put my mind to, God willing. I was like, I can do whatever I put my mind to. In 2026, right? Starting 2026, I was like, I don't have that anymore. Because for 3 freaking years, I did the opposite of everything I said I was gonna do. 3 years of doing nothing but the opposite of what I said I was gonna do. Well, no shoot, bro. Of course I'm not gonna feel that self-belief, right? Of course that's gonna taper away. And it's not that I repeated to myself, I don't keep my promises. It just happened over time because my actions dictated that, right? So that is how powerful your actions are. So again, you have to match your actions to your identity, right? You can't have your actions here and your identity here. It's not gonna work. So you have to suck it up and go through it. But one of the things that can make it suck less over time is linking your actions to your identity. For example, I did this a lot in my journal, like a ton in my journal, right? Because I write down everything that I did, right? Like legitimately everything I did throughout my day. You can see everything, right? Everything is written here. Many times when I do actions that I know needed to do and I didn't feel like doing them, I would, write down, okay, I did this at this time and I feel great. And I write down that I did this because I am someone who keeps the promises I make to myself. During this month of consistency, I was about to scroll on my phone, but then I'm like, I'm not someone who scrolls. And then I closed Instagram. I wrote down, I'm like, I'm not someone who scrolls, right? So I'm linking my actions to that identity, and therefore I am strengthening the neural pathways per se that are slowly forming in my brain regarding that new identity. And they're getting stronger over time the more I do those actions in line with that identity. And one thing I want to clarify, these actions don't need to be something super massive. Like you don't have to freaking do a 3-hour workout. No, you don't have to do that. James Clear talks about having small wins, right? Because the repetitions of actions in line with that identity is what matters most. I'll say it again. The repetition of actions in line with that identity is what matters most, because that's going to strengthen the neural pathways and it's going to lead you to acting in line with that identity. So for example, for me, small wins could be writing an idea down as soon as I get it, creating every single day, not scrolling on my phone, not eating junk food, practicing my speech every single day for 2 minutes, watching 10 minutes of a lecture. Doing those small wins over time for days and days and weeks and months and years is what is going to solidify my new identity. And I just want to say here, it is just as important to not do the things that will take away from that identity. For example, if I'm like, I do not break the promises that I make to myself, and I go ahead and I keep breaking my promises, and I do keep a few here and there, but majority of the time, I'm breaking my promises, it's not going to work because you aren't acting in line with that identity. Now, the fourth thing, which is one of the most important things I've done, is writing down my thoughts and writing down everything I did during the day. If what I did felt good, I wrote that down. If I messed up, I wrote that down. If I got feedback, I wrote that down. I asked, why do I do X? Why do I do Y? Why do I do this behavior? Because all of that helped me become more self-aware and identify the things that I do that are not aligned with this identity that I want to become. And then I could catch those behaviors and I could correct them. And because I did these well for a number of days, right? I can go back and I can recognize the patterns. I can look at, okay, this day I had all my tasks done, this is how I felt. This day I had nothing done, this is what I did, this is where I messed up, right? And then I can use that to identify the patterns that are not serving, and then I can correct them. Like, for example, I noticed that, right? Even today, I noticed that, for example, if I'm doing something, like I'm watching a lecture or I'm doing my workout, right? I end up doing something else, like I'll go on my phone, or I'll check WhatsApp, or I'll open Claude or something like that. Like, I found myself doing that, right? So I was like, oh, okay, wait. Let me write that down. Let me ask myself, why do I do this, right? Why do I do this? Was it because I feel dopamine? Was it because I feel lazy? Was it because I had an idea I wanted to execute then and there? Why was that, right? Why was that? And so when I write that down multiple times, I'm becoming aware of that action. So every single time, that feeling or that instinct of trying to check WhatsApp or my phone or open Claude, right, or ChatGPT during my lecture or during my workout, whatever, I can recognize. I'm like, okay, this is there. This is distracting me. Let me eliminate that, right? And so I'm acting more in line with the identity that I want to become. That I'm in the process of becoming, God willing. And as I mentioned before, if I do this enough times, I have a full log, right, of things that I can correct, of patterns that I can recognize, of what I did good this day, how did I feel this day? I got all my tasks done this day, how did I feel? I got nothing done this day, how did I feel? Do I want more days like this or this? It's a rhetorical question, by the way. Of course, this. But I can identify these patterns and I can improve in the future. And the more I write that down, like, bro, I did this specific habit, this specific thing for the past 21 days straight. I am becoming that person, right? It gives me a new level of confidence because I'm like, I have proof that I am becoming who I say I am. Now, the fifth point is one of the most important things ever, and that is that I stopped counting days. I did not even know how consistent I was until I actually tallied the days for this video. Genuinely. Because a streak mindset always destroyed me every single time. I freaking hate the streak mindset. I freaking hate it. Because like every single time it destroyed me. Because I'd count the days. I'd be like, oh yeah, I've been consistent for 6 days. Let's go, right? But then I'd mess up, let's say on the 9th day. And then I'd be like, oh, my streak is broken. So let me just go on a freaking bad habit rampage. And that's what I do. I go into such a downward spiral of the things I know I shouldn't do. For example, if I scroll for like 10 minutes, right? I'd be like, oh no, my streak is broken. I didn't scroll for like 9 days and now it's the 10th day and I scrolled for 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, well, my streak's broken. Let me scroll for another 3 hours. That is so retarded. And so I took this mindset and I threw it in the trash and I was like, let me just focus on doing what I need to do today. That's it. Let me focus on doing what I need to do today. That is it. And I'm going to use what happened yesterday to improve upon today. And if I struggle to improve from yesterday, I'm going to improve the day after. And this was so beneficial because I stopped counting days. Because I was like, all that matters is today. All I need to do is just focus on winning today. Because when you win days, you win weeks. When you win weeks, you win months. When you win months, you win years. And when you win years, you win decades. When you win decades, you win a life, right? God willing. So that is the thing that matters most, right? And this mindset of just giving up the streak mindset and instead focusing on the day to day is what led me to having the realization that fueled me with even more consistency. It was 6:30 p.m. I'd done everything I said I was going to do. I edited my video, I did my Arabic lesson, I did my rehab, right? I did everything. And I was sitting down reading and I was looking out at the sky and I was like, all I want are more days like these. All I want are more days that are more consistent. I do what I say I'm going to do, where I do the things that are going to get me closer to my goals. And that just fueled me so much to be even more consistent. Because I wasn't looking for any streak. I wasn't looking for any outcome. I was looking for just having more singular days like these. And the sixth and final thing is that only feedback exists, not failure. Truth is, bro, you're human, I'm human, we're bound to mess up. That's just how it is. As I mentioned before, I messed up on the 16th and 17th of July. On the 16th of July, I didn't get my habits done. On the 17th of July, I only got 1 out of 3 tasks done, and I did not get any of my habits done. In fact, I think on the 16th of July, I did not sleep at night. I slept at like 5 a.m., right? Like, I messed up. But then on the 18th of July, 19th of July, I got right back on it. But then on the 18th of July, I got right back at it. I didn't let that failure linger on to the next day, to the next week, to next month, right? I cut it down exactly where it's supposed to get cut down, which is that exact day where I messed up. The key that one of my friends talked about is that, you need to view everything as a scientist. That means looking at everything detached from emotions. Because just like a scientist experimenting to find the cure for cancer, right? He's always experimenting, and then he's taking feedback from that experiment and trying to improve upon it for the next experiment. Because that cure right now is a work in progress. It's not a finished product, right? And you being human, you will always be a work in progress. If you're like me and you want to keep improving till the day you die, I will always be a work in progress. I'll never be a finished product. So let me stop treating myself like a finished product. And let me start treating myself like a work in progress, because that is what I'll always be. And so if I'm a work in progress, right? Failure is nothing but feedback. Because I fail somewhere and then I get to take that feedback and I get to improve upon it the next day. I wrote down, I was like, okay, I messed up here on the 16th of July. Okay, I messed up here on the 17th of July. I messed up because I consumed too much content that caused me to overthink. I'm not gonna consume content on the 18th of July, and boom, I was back at it, right? I took that failure as feedback, I improved upon that, and I brought that to 18th of July and onward. So I became even more consistent. And the biggest thing here is that your previous days, your previous failed days, are not supposed to affect the next day. I messed up on the 17th of July. The 18th of July, I got everything done. I didn't let 17th July affect 18th July. In fact, if I now, right, with my new mindset, alhamdulillah, if I mess up one day, I'm more eager to come back and destroy the next day. I'm more eager to come back and do better the next day. I'm more eager to use yesterday's failures as feedback and take them to improve the upcoming day. Because I'm hungry to get better, because I'm always a work in progress. And I'd always keep mentioning to myself, I am X identity. Acting in this way that, was a failure is not suitable to me. Like, for example, if I broke my promise, I didn't do everything I said I was going to do, right? I was like, I am the type of person who keeps the promises I make to myself. It is not suitable for me to act in this way. Therefore, I'm going to come back better the next day and do everything I say I'm going to do, because I am someone who keeps the promises I make to myself. This is where identity comes in clutch. So overall, this 6-step process, right, is exactly what I did to establish consistency. All gratitude belongs to God, right? This is how I was able to establish consistency that I've struggled to find in the past 3.5 years. Alhamdulillah. So I hope you found this valuable and you implement this for yourself. By the way, if you're new here, I'm trying to build my dream physique. After I got injured, I have torn rotator cuff. I'm working towards healing that, building my dream physique, documenting this entire journey. I also talk about identity, mindset stuff, right? Because that directly correlates with how consistent you are and how well you're performing in your fitness. Because truth is, like, so many people know what to do. Myself included, but they struggle to do those things. And this is the stuff that's missing. So if that sounds something you're into, consider subscribing. With that being said, I'll catch you in the next video, God willing. Peace. Anger.